Boys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're doing an NFL teams tier list. Before we start, I want to tell you guys happy Thanksgiving because I know this is coming out on Thanksgiving. Hopefully your team's doing well. Hopefully your fantasy teams are in a good state of mind. Hopefully you did not just lose your quarterback for the season. Without further ado, let's get right into it. And our first team is the Arizona Cardinals, who are going to go straight into F tier. Murray to Hollywood Brown should be promising in the future, but right now the roster is lacking all-around talent, and I think that they just don't have a good enough defense to carry the load. Falcons, without Arthur Smith, they're B tier, but with him, they're C tier. If they give the ball to Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, and Drake London, I think the offense has more potential, but if Arthur Smith continues to have a weird affection for Jonnu Smith and Tyler Algier, hopefully I pronounced that right, they will not continue in games, and they will be a first-round exit in the playoffs. I don't think this is a very good team. I think that they're low on power rankings, and their record is too good for their actual team. Ravens, this is our first S-tier team. Lamar is playing like an MVP, and even without Mark Andrews, the team is less reliant on that sort of playmaker, and it's more of an all-around lineup. The offensive line is incredible. The defense is incredible. Roquan Smith is very good. Marlon Humphrey's very good, and so is Marcus Williams. The team's got playmakers everywhere. Their D-line doesn't slouch, and I think that this is a very well-composite team. Next up, we got the Bills. It's either B or A for me, and to me, I think that I'm going to go A tier. I'm still a believer in the Bills, that Josh Allen can pick it up in the second half of the year. Ken Dorsey was a big problem. Diggs, as we all know, is a top 5 receiver. Go to Beta Wall. The defense has been plagued by injuries, but they've still got good safeties. Terrell Bernard's been stepping up into that Tremaine Edmonds role, and I think that they are still incredible, and I think that they might win the AFC East even with the Dolphins. Next up, we got the Panthers. This is our second F-tier team. Bryce Young has no help around him, but he hasn't looked very good himself. Miles Sanders has looked like Trent Richardson, and the day that you're throwing all of your passes to 34-year-old Adam Thielen, you should know how this is. By the way, I do think that the defense is good, but they just can't score a lot of points. Next up, we got the Bears, F tier. As well, we're getting the F tier teams out of the way early. Justin Fields is not taking that Jalen Hurts leap yet, and I think that we're going to continue to wait on him. Me personally, I've given up on him already. I think that he'll have sporadic bursts of playing well, but I don't think that he's the answer for the Bears franchise. DJ Moore is like their sole playmaker on offense. The defense, after losing Roquan Smith, is devoid of talent. And I think that the Bears are just an F-tier team. Next up, we got the Bengals with Joe Burrow, S-tier, without Joe Burrow, and Jake Browning leading the helm.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
I'm going to put them in B. Remember, they still got Jamar Chase, they still got Dax Hill, they still got Trey Hendrickson, T. Higgins. They have playmakers. Joe Mixon, too, but Joe Burrow's the heart and soul of that team. I think without him, this team's going to be another first-round exit in the playoffs. Next up, we got the Browns. B tier, very similar situation to the Bengals. As much as I hate to say it, DTR is still a huge downgrade from Deshaun Watson. The defense is incredible, and I don't think they're as reliant on their quarterback. But I think with DTR leading the helm, again, this is another team that's a potential first-round exit. Following, you've got the Cowboys. This is a perfect A-tier team for me. I don't think that they pull it off because they never do. I have to see it to believe it. But the Cowboys, they look incredible. Micah Parsons is probably the best defensive player in the league. But I think what's really holding this team back is Dak Prescott. He's just average. He'll have sporadic games where he plays well and they beat up on bad teams. And when they play an actually good team in the playoffs, they get destroyed and everybody's like, wow, they were playing so well in the regular season. You're not playing the Giants in the playoffs, and I think that's what gets everybody's hopes up. Next up, we got the Broncos. A couple of weeks ago, I definitely would have said D or even F. But now I think that they're a C-tier team. They're on the rise.
Broncos country, let's ride.
They've been starting to play well in recent weeks. They just beat a Vikings team that was looking incredible. Russell Wilson's picking up the offense. The defense is beginning to regain that 2022 form. And as long as they continue to play together and Russell Wilson goes back to looking like how he did in Seattle, this might be like a divisional contender. And I think with the way they're playing right now, they're A tier. I just need to see more. Next up, we got the Lions. This is between A and S for me. And I'm going to full send. I'm going to go S tier. I think that the Lions have a very good chance to make it out of the NFC. Jared Goff is playing like a top 10 guy. Amon-Ra St. Brown has potential to put on an Offensive Player of the Year campaign if some guy named Tyreek Hill did not exist. The defense, I think they have potential to find their groove in the second half of the year with guys like C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Emmanuel Mosley was incredible last year. Jack Campbell's going to continue to step up his play. The Lions, they just have found new resurgence underneath Dan Campbell, and we're finally into the day that the Lions are S tier. Packers, this is going to be our first D tier team. Jordan Love doesn't look like the answer, but he doesn't have a lot of help around him. It doesn't help that Aaron Jones just got banged up last week, and I don't think him. I think he's going to continue to get banged up. And A.J. Dillon, he can't do much in the receiving game to help Love. Jaden Reed, Christian Watson, they just haven't looked very good this year. I think that the Packers need a receiver, but with the way that they draft, they will not draft one until the 5th round, and that's going to continue to hold them back. Defense, they got guys like Rashawn Gary, I guess, Kenny Clark, but they just don't have a lot after trading Rasul Douglas. I think that the defense doesn't have enough talent to compensate for the offense's lack of ability to score points. Texans, this is going to be a team. Yes, I do believe we are in the era where C.J. Stroud is an MVP candidate and the Houston Texans are an A-tier lineup. Stroud's playing like an MVP. His connection to Tank Dell is going to continue to improve throughout the second half of the year. Devin Singletary's found a career resurgence. Noah Brown's playing well. The defense is picking up their slack. Derek Stingley, Jalen Petrie, Will Anderson, they're going to continue to play well. And I think they're A-tier. Colts, we've got C-tier with Anthony Richardson, with Gardner Minshew leading the way, as much as he's impossible to hate. D-tier. Gardner Minshew is going to hold this team back. Jonathan Taylor, I don't think he's ever going to regain 2021 form. Michael Pittman doesn't really feel like he's the best fit in the offense, and I don't really believe in Josh Downs to continue to play as well as he does. They just released Shaquille Leonard, too, and he wasn't exactly playing well, even ever since the name change. The defense is lacking talent. I mean, they still have DeForest Buckner and Grover Stewart, but D-tier to me. Jags, this is going to be our 4th A-tier team, and the Jags, they're captained by Trevor Lawrence. He's definitely a top 7 at least quarterback, maybe more. Christian Kirk, Calvin Ridley, Travis Etienne, they have found ways to surround him with talent. I think Evan Ingram's playing incredibly well too. The defense, captained by Josh Allen and an emerging Trayvon Walker, they're going to continue to get better. Andre Sisco's going to continue to play well. I think the Jags are an A-tier lineup because they just find ways to play together, very similar to either the Lions. The Lions are just winning more games. Next up, we got the Chiefs. Next team. Although, I will say, okay, they have Mahomes, they have Kelsey, they have Chris Jones. They're obviously S-tier. But I don't think they're the powerhouse that they were last year, and I think that this team will get bounced from the playoffs. I don't think they're making it back to the Super Bowl. I don't think they're the easy favorite. And with the teams on the rise that we're seeing in the AFC, I don't think that the Chiefs are going to be the team to beat anymore. Chargers. This team, talent-wise, S-tier. Play-wise, they are C-tier. Brandon Staley is going to continue to hold this team back. Let me give you a list of incredible Chargers players who are definitely very valuable at their position. Justin Herbert, Austin Eckler, Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, Derwin James, Joey Bosa, and Khalil Mack. They have 7 players who can make an all-pro team in any given season, and yet they just continue to lose close games. They just lost to the Packers, okay? If we're doing this with how the team's actually been playing in, like, record-wise, they're D-tier. And that shouldn't be happening. I don't think Brandon Staley has a chance of keeping his job. His defensive play calls, I don't know what's going on, but allowing 23 points to the Packers is horrible. And they just need to find their groove. And I think that groove is going to continue to get hindered by Brandon Staley until they actually get rid of the guy.
Is anybody surprised about what happened?
No, man.
Nope.
Next up, we got the Rams. D tier. Again, this team's got talent. I think Aaron Donald, like they triple team the guy so he doesn't get that many sacks. Oh, he's washed. He's not washed. He's incredible. I don't care what you say. Cooper Kupp, he's very good. Puka Nakua's finding his role. Matthew Stafford, I still believe in him. But when you look at the rest of the team, who's their second best defensive player? Ernest Jones, Taylor Rapp. Like, you look at the lineup, they don't have all-around talent, roster construction, and when you're relying on a few players so heavily, the day that they don't have a good game, you're just going to lose and lose again, and that's why they're D tier. Next up, we got the Raiders. New look, Antonio Pierce Raiders. I think they're C tier. Raiders are just going to continue to improve, and they just hung in there with the Dolphins. I love the way that Antonio Pierce coaches. He's very down to earth. He's like he feels like a regular guy, but he also seems like a smart coach. He reminds me a little bit of Dan Campbell. Feels like just a regular guy, but then again is an amazing coach. That ranking has a lot to do with Antonio Pierce. Next up, we got the Dolphins. They're A tier, and to me, they're closer to B tier than they are to S tier. And before you write your comment, okay, the Dolphins have not beat a team with a winning record in over 400 days. They're going to get bounced from the playoffs one of these times. I think the team's incredible, but they need to find a way to beat teams that can beat teams, if you catch my drift. Again, Tyreek Hill is going to have an Offensive Player of the Year campaign. Tua is going to have an MVP campaign. Jalen Ramsey's found his role, but beat a team with a winning record, and you have potential to be S tier. Next up, we got the Vikings, also C tier. The Vikings have very high potential. Josh Dobbs is incredible. He's going to continue to lead that lineup. When Justin Jefferson gets back, this offense could be a powerhouse. And while the defense isn't great, if the Vikings continue to improve and get on hot streaks, I could see them continuing to rise up. And although the loss of Kirk Cousins did hurt, I still believe in the Vikings. And I think that if Josh Dobbs continues to play at the rate he does, which I don't know how he does, they can be even higher. Patriots, F tier. This is my favorite team, so let me go on a little bit of a rant. Mac Jones is not the answer. Ramondre Stevenson looks like Trent Richardson. The offensive line isn't helping me neither. Receivers, please learn to catch a pass. The defense lost two of their best three players, and Kyle Duggar can't pick up the slack. The defensive line is just getting destroyed every play. We're getting ran on. And although I don't think Bill Belichick is getting fired, this might be one of the worst lineups that he's ever coached. F tier. Caleb Williams, please come here. Next up, we got the Saints. C tier. Dennis Allen, I haven't seen a lot of him, but I don't really like the guy. Nothing personal, I just don't like Dennis Allen for some reason. Derek Carr, I don't think that he's going to continue to be the Saints guy. I think they're going to draft a guy in a couple of years. Alvin Kamara is incredible. We know this. Chris Olave, Michael Thomas, they're pretty good. One of the best receiving duos in the league, probably top 10. And then the defense, captained by Tyrann Mathieu, Demario Davis, and Cameron Jordan, is always going to play well. But they're not winning games, and I think that's partially due to Derek Carr. C tier. Next up, we got the Giants. This is going to be our fifth and final, spoiler warning, F tier team. Tommy DeVito. The Commanders' defense is not that good, so although he looked like a god reincarnated on the football field, I don't think that's going to continue to last. We saw what happened when they play good teams. Saquon stuck behind a horrible offensive line, and Andrew Thomas can't clone himself to play left guard, left tackle, center, right guard, and right tackle. So Evan Neal's going to continue to get beat up. They don't have another good offensive lineman. Darren Waller looks washed. The receivers, I can't even name them. And the defense just lost Leonard Williams. They're not going to win games. And I think Brian Daboll's doing his best, but F tier. Next up, we got the Jets. C tier. They've just been hanging along all season. Not great, but they're not horrible. I think when Aaron Rodgers gets back, they're going to be a little better, but it's not going to be such a game-wrecking impact when you have a 39-year-old who just got off of an Achilles tear. Also, I think that Rodgers' Achilles tear was a hoax. There's no way that he's going to play this season if it's an actual Achilles tear. Next up, we got the Eagles. This, to me, is the best team in the league. You got Jalen Hurts looking like an MVP, DeAndre Swift looking like a great running back, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, one of the best receiving duos in the league as well. Dallas Goedert, although he's unfortunately injured, once he gets back, this offense will be even better. Offensive line and defensive line are some of the best in the league. Jalen Carter looks like a defensive rookie of the year candidate. The D-backs always play well. They just added Kevin Byard to a team that I thought couldn't get better somehow, and they did. S tier for the Philadelphia Eagles. You're welcome. Next up, we got the Steelers. I'm going to put them B tier because Mike Tomlin always has like some sort of lucky charm. He's got like a rabbit's foot wherever he needs it, and that's why they always win like 9 to 10 games, and when they continue to do so, you got to put them at least B tier, but I think Kenny Pickett isn't the answer. George Pickens seems like kind of a prima donna. Pat Freiermuth has good potential. The defense is great. Minka Fitzpatrick, T.J. Watt. But I think Kenny Pickett's holding this team back, honestly. Next up, we got the Seahawks. To me, they're A tier. The loss to the Ravens was a fluke. And Geno Smith is playing well. He's got a career resurgence. Kenneth Walker's incredible. So is DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. They might be the best receiving duo in the league. Along with Smith and Jigba, he's going to continue to be great in a couple of years. The defense is decent, captained by Bobby Wagner, Tariq Woolen, Jamal Adams. We haven't seen that much of him lately, but they just added Leonard Williams, and I think that this is an A-tier lineup. I just don't know what we're going to see from Geno in the playoffs, and that kind of scares me if I'm a Seahawks fan. Next up, we got the San Fran 49ers, and this is going to be our fifth and final S-tier team. He got 5 S-tier teams and 5 F-tier teams. The 49ers, captained by Brock Purdy, who's somehow still playing incredible, just had the 70th 158.33 passer rating game of all time. He's looking incredible. He's surrounded by Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, Trent Williams, all arguably some of the best players at their position. They've also got Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, Talanoa Hufanga, who's unfortunately out for the rest of the season. The defense is also incredible. I think when you have two sides of the ball playing in tandem like that, where the offense complements the defense and vice versa, you got to be S tier. And that's headlined by the 49ers only having lost 3 games the entire season. Next up, we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, C tier. Baker Mayfield, he looks okay. I don't think he's the true answer. He's also surrounded by a bad running game, but he's got Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, who are always going to be good somehow. Tristan Wirfs is one of the best linemen in the league. And then on defense, you got Levante David, Shaquille Barrett, Jamel Dean, Antoine Winfield. And the defense is decent. They've been a little bit worse ever since Brady left, but I still believe in the Bucs. I think Baker Mayfield can be good. I just don't know if he's the true answer. The Titans, D tier. I don't think that Derrick Henry can continue to carry the load much longer. As much as I hate to say it, he's one of the best running backs of all time, in my opinion. Definitely a Hall of Famer. But I don't think he's going to continue to carry the load as he gets into his 30s. And then DeAndre Hopkins looks washed. Will Levis, I don't think that he's great. He has potential, but I just don't know what I'm going to see from him. Next year, I think DeAndre Hopkins is going to look like just another dude out there. And he already does, except for that 3-touchdown game. Sorry for you if you have him in fantasy, just trying to decide whether to start or sit him every week. The defense isn't headlined by a lot of guys. And I was going to talk about Kevin Byard, but he's traded, so you can't really talk about him anymore. And the defense just devoid of talent. The offense is just captained by Derrick Henry, who can't do everything. And Mike Vrabel is going to win them games, but they're D tier. And finally, we got the Washington football team, and we're going to end off with our 9th C tier team of the day. Sam Howell's leading the league in passing yards. He looks pretty good. He might be the answer there. Brian Robinson has found his way as a dual threat back. Scary Terry, who's always the threat to catch a touchdown on your head. And on defense, the reason they're not higher, I think that with Montez Sweat and Chase Young, they might be at least higher on C tier, but without them, they're almost bottoming C tier. The defense isn't left with a lot of guys except for Jonathan Allen and Deron Payne. And I don't think the Commanders have a lot of potential. So if you guys will give me a second, I'm going to rename all the tiers and put the teams in order of how good they are. So boys, here we are at the final tier list with the labels. So let's go over them really quickly. So my S tier, I named the Super Bowl contenders. At the top of it, I put the Philadelphia Eagles, who I believe is the best team in the league, followed by the 49ers, the Ravens, the Chiefs, and then at the bottom, we got the Lions. My A tier, I named them the divisional contenders. At the top of it, we've got the Dolphins, followed by the Jags, the Bills, the Cowboys, the Seahawks, and the Texans. In the B tier, I felt like this was a good label for all three teams. I named it Your QB is Holding You Back. At the top, we got the Bengals, followed by the Browns, followed by the Steelers. In the C tier, we have bad coaching, teams on the rise, and a bunch of mid. By a bunch of mid, yes, I am looking at you, Washington, New York, and Tampa Bay. So at the start of it, we got the Falcons, followed by the Broncos, the Vikings, the Chargers, the Raiders, the Jets, the Saints, the Commanders, and bottoming it, we've got the Buccaneers, so I actually almost put in D tier. In the D tier, we've got the lack of all-around roster construction. This is headlined by the Colts, the Packers, the Rams, and the Titans, who are all lacking like offensive lines or overall playmakers at most positions. And in the F tier, we've got Caleb Williams is shopping here. I hope that Caleb Williams is shopping in New England. And in this tier, we've got the Cardinals, the Giants, followed by the Bears, followed by the Patriots, and who I believe is the worst team in the league, the Carolina Panthers. Comment below what changes you think I should make to this list. I believe you all are seeing this on Thanksgiving, but even if you're not, hope you all did have a happy Thanksgiving. Eat your turkey, watch some football, and I'll see you boys in the next video. Peace.